All right. Still a little short on numbers today. So since we kind of started there, let me ask Daph, if I were to add a one-liner to each one of these describing the JIRA boards, I don't know if these are boards or projects exactly.
They're projects, but
Okay.
boards are a view into the project.
Okay. Projects. So Aether JIRA is where I would find issues related to specifics like SD core.
Correct. Basically, that's where you're going to find product functionality issues.
Thank you. What's this, just as an example.
Right.
Okay. QA is
Should be. It was originally instituted as system infrastructure, functionality, getting their environment set up.
so maybe this is not all that relevant anymore.
I don't think so. We need to confirm with GS Lab folk because they've been filing most of the tickets on Aether JIRA now that they've got testing functionality sufficient to test product rather than just get things up and running.
Yeah, so let's verify that. And ONF infrastructure.
Infrastructure issues that I or Joey have to deal with.
Yeah.
Going forward, the problem is that we keep notes for our internal use future, so we're not sure how public the information can be.
So this one's the private one.
Yeah. I'm going to need a document, just let people know a method to file tickets in Aether JIRA that we can work on in ONF JIRA. That way people can maintain status and visibility to the stuff they can see, but we can keep private stuff private.
Got it. All right, so back to Aether JIRA, I put the functionality, product functionality. So SD core tickets would be there. Would on-ramp tickets be there?
That's a decision that we should make, that we need to make.
Yeah, I would say yes.
Do we want this to be?
Yeah, I would say probably yes.
Okay. So pretty much anything, we got to figure out which. It's hard because you have to define which products are part of Aether and should be focused on Aether. SD core, SD fabric, SD RAN, on-ramp rock, do they all fall into Aether?
Yeah, we're adopting the strategy of keeping things rooted at Aether, starting to fork out in modest ways like individual labels, perhaps. I'm not sure what the right mechanism there.
Yeah, the easier components, but yeah, okay, good.
Yeah, so yeah, SD-RAN is fine. Oops. And AMP. I don't need tickets in there for it. All right, let's go that way. That consolidates it. And all of the old fabric is no longer relevant. And anything, TAM, I'm thinking of these were basically teams back in when Aether was being built from the start. TAM was what we called QA, was testing and measurement. Fabric is not really relevant. We've now added on-ramp. So I think, yeah. So is component the right
Yeah, I'll have to document up a piece and go, but
Good,
we
thank
should
you.
make components available for it.
All right, so long story short, this is the key one. Okay, so there was triage of bug reports, which I believe Timon added here. I don't know that anyone that it's something we need to do, but I don't know that we're prepared to do that today. Does anyone have any path forward to talk about triaging Jira bug reports right now? Are there particular bugs that we want to call, someone wants to call out? Let's prepare for a future meeting. Okay. Second item is one that I added. A couple of weeks ago, we did a presentation from Intel Labs on throughput, and it was of general interest to the TST and the folks that show up in this call. I think that notion works, and as long as we keep, technical on topic, setting aside half an hour every other week, maybe that's kind of an approach that might work. Which would have put us today, but we don't have anything scheduled, which is fine. 2 weeks is the third 2 weeks from today. So GXC is a small company in Austin that has worked with SD Core. They've worked in concert with Intel Labs. They have also done work with SRS RAN, which is an open source RAN stack that they've integrated with SD Core. So it would be just good to, I was introduced to them at the DARPA PI meeting several weeks ago, and the overlap was just kind of shocked me because I had not heard about them. So I thought it would be good to sort of cross-pollinate and make sure that those of us that attend this call know what they're up to, because they have been heavily involved. Does anyone else have any requests like this or ideas? I think the other aspect of this is that we're recording these meetings anyway. So therefore we will have these recorded. And I'm thinking, Denise and I have gone back and forth a little bit, that one idea is to record just those presentations as a standalone video that we can advertise to the community. People that don't want to be pulled through the muck of the TST call can still watch that piece.
Yeah, so from a canonical point of view, I would be more than interested in sharing what we're working on, what we're building for around SD Core. I don't know if probably not at the next meeting, maybe the one after, something would be reasonable in a month.
Yeah, that canonical. Yeah, let me just mark that. One from Canonical. I think Wushan, I don't know if he's on the call, has said that he would do one on SD-RAN integration. Yeah, so let's just keep that in mind. And so that would be the third, and then going into the future, on the order of every other week. And if we get lots of them, we may just work off a separate time for these presentations, but I think for now this will work. Third point. So the notion of merge privilege Oh, I said merge privilege here. This is really Jira. It's actually both.
The Jira or Garrett GitHub?
Yeah, it's both. Let me call it differently. This is both Jira and Garrett privilege. I conflated them as I jotted this down. So the immediate question was, who can post tickets to Jira? Had a conversation with the Canonical folks, who quite a few of them on the call here. They did not have permission to post on Jira. And in talking to DAF about how to deal with that, sort of came, we tripped over a policy issue. So the official policy is lost to the mists of time, I think, but it was probably ONF owned who got various write permissions to various subsystems like this. Going forward, as we transition to being more community driven instead of ONF driven, we should revisit that. So the easy thing, so the two immediate things to do, try to do this in a way that records it here. Let's call it TST granted privilege for now. And that's what we've done with the Canonical example. We probably ought to prune the users with privilege, or prune. I'm assuming that we'll delete some of them. We need to audit it. And then I think the sort of how do we sustain this over time is the open question. And I don't know if anyone wants to chime in here with thoughts. David, if you had.
Yeah, I have a mild proposal. Let me toss out. I'm just going to plop it here for discussion, but edit and mark is necessary. I'd kind of like to, if possible, just have 3 generic roles for each set that people have. For Garrett, my first pass is the ability to just clone and fork public repos, which is basically almost anybody. The ability to push changes to repos and do +1 reviews. Today on the Volta space, that's called Volta devs, but it'd be basic contributors. And the second is people can push and pull private repositories and provide a +2 reviews. And basically this last one would be the test approved special developers kind of thing. That would, as a thought, as to 3 buckets that most people should fall into. Does that make sense?
Right,
top off wall.
Yeah, let me internalize it. Anyone else, please chime in.
So just in general, as an open source project, you may want to have your default policy be able, like anonymous read only, so that anybody is capable of viewing the sources, and non-embargoed bug lists as well. That's a pretty standard way of setting up permissions, but of course, you may, I don't know if you've already got, an embargo policy in terms of, how do people report CVEs or things like that, but that's something that you'll need to, long-term as well, so.
Sounds good. Oh, and sorry, and basically this, as we go up the buckets, I kind of like to have anybody who's in a top level thing have that privileges across the board. For instance, test members should, TSC members should be able to have, basically full access and full reviews to Garrett and GitHub, as well as be able to modify jobs within Jenkins, as well as be able to update and edit Jira tickets beyond just creation.
Mhm.
So I'm just gonna, basically you're proposing what happens with Volta.
Yeah.
Yeah, that, it makes sense to me. So now the next, so TST is reasonably well defined. How do you define devs?
Basically, right now I'm defining is people who have contributed. You know, my first call is people who have contributed in the last X months, and those who contribute changes that get accepted. What's that for a word? I'm not sure how that works out. What it comes down to is effectively the architects of the project are going to have to say, as new people come in and want to make contributions, are your contributions good enough?
Yeah. Well, so people who have contributed in the last X months, by contributed, I assume that's contribution accepted.
Yeah, that'd be my first take anyway. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if it's, accurate, but sorry.
So in order to contribute, what permission do you need? Like have you got a bit of a bootstrap problem here? In
Yes.
order to become a developer, you have to be a developer.
Well, right
That's
now
the point.
we can make code requests. It's just that nobody is merging them.
Right.
We just need that first merge.
Mhm.
Yeah, the process right now, I think, since everything we wanted to contribute to was on GitHub, it was relatively simple. There was this funny thing about the CLA that we took a while, and it was a bit of a mess, but otherwise it's kind of easy to open PRs and have discussions there. So that's good. The only issue I would see as someone that has opened some PRs is the Jenkins job status, that it can be a bit difficult. So there's one check in there, for example, that's the license check that goes through all the files and validates that the license, the copyright is all in there. But we can't see the I cannot see the output of that job, so it fails, and I don't know why. So I need someone else to go look at those logs to tell me what's wrong and what I missed. So some of those things I think should be readable by anybody. Like telling me that you're missing a copyright line in the file, I don't think is something we necessarily want to hide, but I understand that there might be other checks going on in Jenkins that are running things on some infrastructure, access to secrets, things like that we don't necessarily want to give to everybody.
Yeah, but the issue that you point out, which is just read the output of validation jobs, should be visible. That's one of the reasons you'll see that first bullet under Jenkins. I kind of believe that Anonymous should basically be able to check job status and read job logs. Now we may need to modify that for some jobs, which may have private information, but
So
visibility thing.
so
Right
you're,
now,
you're
go ahead.
David, your line there says Deb. So what you're now saying is that maybe we want that anonymous.
I keep bouncing, but yeah, I think I
Yeah.
mistyped that.
But caveat,
I can't say everything will be.
yeah. Is there a subset that we would, but that would take some work to carve out the distinction.
Yeah, are the logs, are the jobs defined in the project? I don't think so. They're defined in Jenkins, and they pull the project and do their thing, right?
Correct. They're separate from the project code.
Okay, so if I was a bad actor, I could not just push a new job that tries to just log all the secrets and and then push a PR and read those logs. So
Well,
that's
there-
good.
Yeah, well, there's two scenarios here. Certainly on that first level, you would not have that permission. Theoretically, there are some hard-coded jobs manual. You'll see that second level invoke hard-coded jobs manually. There are some jobs that allow you to define, it's certainly in Voltaland, and it's possible we'll be putting them in Aether and various things, where developer local Docker containers get invoked. Once we allow that to happen, we open up the world. The security holes of letting anybody run any Docker container is somewhat dangerous. So that's a concern. We can get around it. There are manual ways to review that, but it is something to keep in mind. And then if we put that third level in there where people are able to modify the jobs themselves directly, then of course anybody who has that access has full permission, but presumably that access becomes constrained by the only people who do it are approved by this community, by this group, the TST.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think we want to put jobs that are relatively simple, like the license check, I think could be anonymous, but other more complex job that could potentially lead to security issues, I agree they should be behind either an approval. Like right now, I think there are already some checks that need someone with access to approve the checks to actually run. So I think that's good if they can have access to some secrets.
Yeah, it's just, it's a question about what level do we imply, at what level do we invoke what gateways? Eventually I think the TST is going to have, as part of the standard thing, an improvement step where a developer will ask you for permission to run something, and you'll have to review and say yes or no, or somebody will. Meanwhile, we give that permission explicitly to individual developers that have gained sufficient trustworthy.
Okay, so we should, yeah, let me try to turn this into a couple of things here, which is, oops, I guess this is all part of revisit. Right. Write down the policy and post, and do the audit of current Aether dev, the TST. We'll do that, and I've got the spreadsheet with the dump from DAF, so I will get that out and ask the TST members to take a look at it. Thank you, everyone. That's good. Other topics. This is all we had on the agenda coming in. Anything SD Core? Badri, I saw you were on that we need to talk about, or QA?
Nothing from my side as such. I think we're reviewing some of the code requests that have come in. I think that's pretty much what it is.
Well, I do have a topic, but I don't know if there were other more important before.
So yeah, nothing. So because of the way I'm sharing my screen here, I don't always see everything, like who is on, and I was like, let me see who's on. Dun, 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 dun. So let me just summarize it for. No. So SD Core is reviewing tickets. Let me just do a quick summary of SD-RAN. So I do see we have a couple of people on. Maybe we can spend a couple minutes there, and we'll come back to that additional topic. RAN SIM redesign. Proposed. Needs review. So, Alex or Sat, do you want to say a little bit about what's going on here so everyone knows about this activity?
Yeah, I can get started, Alex. Please, just go to the details. So the idea here is that RANSIM, which is a simulator, is getting a lot of, attention and need, especially with the R-Rail project and also the energy saving Smart 5G. So we need to expand the current functionalities of RANSIM. And recently we have been we are adding other interfaces like O1, but we need to increase the scope of the UE model, and also should be open to able to have this RANSIM to support various use cases. So right now it is a big monolithic piece of code, and we need to separate out. There are some ideas that has been floated around, and maybe Alex, you can give a little bit of details about the current thinking, and then obviously we need to have more discussions and some more thinking around it. And also there are additional other organizations are willing to pitch in also to get this going, because getting a lot of interest and need. Alex, anything to add on? I mean, add on to that, and specifically, we talked about it, and also some feedback from Wujong. So you might want to talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, so nothing to add. You're right. We need to take it with Wujong to the next steps and go from there, I think.
So I chatted with Wujong yesterday, and I mean, I don't have a lot to report except he's not going to be the guy doing the implementation. He is happy to help. His proposal is completely rational and makes total sense. So we certainly need to have the community spend some time with it, but it's kind of the obvious thing to do. But I think that the challenge we need to treat this review as a way of recruiting people to work on it, as much as anything else.
So Larry, IRA Technologies, they're one of the app vendors. They expressed some keen interest into that. So shall we bring them to this forum, or
I think this is a nice package of topic to fork off and to go off and do the design review and then bring it back to the larger group. So yeah, and yeah, like I said, Wujong is more than happy to talk to everyone through the design. And of course, to be successful, we need to get buy-in, and then figure out a work schedule for it of some kind, or resource it.
Help to schedule meeting, and I will introduce the IRA team. So we have a separate meeting, some kind of a brainstorming. Then you can bring it back to this forum, right? That's what you say.
That sounds good.
Cool. I like that. Yeah.
Okay. So the only other thing, and this is just repeating, he has this underway. I've created the repo for him on GitHub, so he's going to be checking it in hopefully relatively soon, and we can start taking it for a test drive. It'll be limited to the current RANSIM for the time being. My big goal here is to bring in as many RAN G-Node B options as possible.
Yeah.
We'll be exploring different ones there, but initially it'll just be the current ransom. Okay, so the new topic, what is it?
Well, it's not very much a new topic. It was definitely related to the SD core reviewing tickets one. So we addressed all the comments on all the PRs you created, and we're still waiting for reviews there. So it's more of a like.
I just thank you. All right.
Yeah, I think we're still catching up on it, but yeah, we'll try to get it done probably this week or next for sure.
Okay.
So those two sub bullets are exactly backwards. First, you've responded to the PR request. You got comments on the PR. You're responding to those, and now Badri et al. Are reviewing the tickets. Are reviewing those. Got it. Thanks. Good. So the right kind of thing is starting to happen there. Anything else? Just FYI, I just ran the internet speed test on the Moza Lab Gnode B, and I'm getting basically typically at somewhere in the neighborhood of 16, 17 megabits per second downloaded, and somewhere between 10 and 12 megabits uploaded. So not where we hope it is, and this is without any bandwidth optimization, but it's
Larry?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I just joined. I didn't get the reminder to join the meeting. Sorry. Regarding the Gnode B throughput that you're saying, I guess that's with the UPF, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So something that you need to take into account in there is, there is the slides limits, kind of the policy that you have in there. So, if you increase that, the data rate for the slice or the packet burst size, you may have again larger values for the throughput itself.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, well, I'm not sure. So this is certainly not SRIOV optimized. And these are round numbers. Every test runs a little bit differently, but it's basically 16. And somewhere in the neighborhood of, I don't know, 10 to 12. Yeah, let me say it's 16 to 18, because I've seen some pretty good ones, relatively speaking. But I have, those numbers are under the current QoS limits. I am 99% sure, but I'll go back and make 100% sure.
Yeah. The only thing is to kind of keep in mind, if let's say the type of speed test that you're running, if it is a TCP test, if it is the burst size too big, is going to kind of start dropping certain packets if the burst size on the slice itself is not large enough. So that's going to kind of partially limit also the throughput you're going to see, because it's going to make the TCP link to slow down.
So I should be able to, this is through Measurement Lab. Actually, if you just Google internet, how fast is my internet, you get MLab. 32 millisecond round trip time to a server in Las Vegas. Let's see if there's anything more. I am told I have to go dig down into the actual test output, but that's the test that's being run. Just FYI.
Okay.
Yeah, so it is TCP.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. From the pipeline perspective, just out of curiosity, you can take a look into see whether any packet is being dropped at the session level due to this metering component. So that might be
So
reason.
the metering, so just what should I expect? If let's just say hypothetically, and I think this might actually be the number, I had down speed limits of 20 megabits a second, and I'm seeing just under that. And at any given moment, I may burst enough that causes me to lose a packet. Would I
Right.
expect to see 15, 16?
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
So now that ought to happen. So how big are how much queuing or buffering is available in the UPF?
The UPF itself,
Well, I would assume that's where where's the buffering, where's the QoS being enforced?
it's inside the pipeline itself. There is I may need to look into specifically. I think this is a feature that one of my colleagues developed. I haven't looked into the specifics, and I know that he's reworking the whole QoS component part. Yeah, besides that, at the moment, I couldn't indicate any more details. Besides, again, this burst size that might be impacted, especially if you have a TCP test, right? So, and it's gonna just drop packets time to time, and that's gonna make it TCP to slow down.
Yeah. All right. Well, I will trying to remember this. I mean, it's a fairly sophisticated test. Oh darn it! I can't remember what it's not iPerf, but it's I can't think of the name of the test. Yeah, I'll have to go track down the details. Thanks for bringing that up. I will go dig into that and see if I can find an explanation.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything else?
Just general comment, when we did some testing using the OpenAir interface along with USRP, we were getting in the downlink around like 20 megabits per second, and in uplink around like 5 to 10 megabits per second. But that's probably like at the end of last year, so we haven't run another kind of those tests, but it will be something.
Here's another. So this is with the physical Gnode B, and
Mhm.
and I don't have any experience mapping the literal frequency band onto throughput, but it's got a 20 megahertz allocation. Is that possibly the bottleneck?
Well, in 5G depend on a few things. What is the numerology that you have, and based on that, you're gonna have the number of PRBs that you're gonna have.
Yeah.
So there are a few factors that may, being taken into account for that. And of course, how far your UE is from the Gnode B, depending on what's the MCS that you're getting, and a few more things to take into account.
I've never understood the phrasing of the numerology, is if I got that right.
Oh, the numerology basically is the subcarrier spacing. So the
I know. I know what that using that term just has always kind of seemed a little weird, but that's just me.
Yeah. No, the numerology itself is more like 3GPP standard terminology.
Okay. And just FYI, Denise has learned that Mosel Lab, and again, no one here understands quite the relationship between Mosel Lab and Sericom. The outside of the box says Sericom, the inside of the box says I'm sorry, the outside says Mosel Lab, the inside says Sericom. But in any case, they are going to announce their outdoor Gnode B at MWC Vegas, so that could be available very soon.
Right. I'll as soon as I find out availability, I'll pass that along, Larry.
Okay, thanks. All right, anything else? All right, thanks, everybody. We'll see you again next week. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.